is the Dawg Pound. What a special broadcast we have for you today. We're going to talk about rapid growth, rapid expansion. Everywhere you look, dealers are buying more points. And not the big publics. We're talking about private ownership, buying all these dealerships. What are the challenges? What are the rewards? Why are they doing it? What are the setbacks? To talk to us today, a good friend, Kristin Dillard-Sodoma. Hi, kid.
Hello, how's it going?
Having the best day. Team Auto Network in Charlotte, Carolina, Salisbury. Been there. You've been on quite a buying spree. Are you still doing that?
Yeah, we've had a pretty fun last couple of years. We've, I guess since 2018, we've purchased 6 additional dealerships, started a couple of new companies that are tangents to automotive. And it's just been quite busy for us and our team.
Tell me about the other companies. What are you doing there?
I'm sorry, it broke up. What'd you say?
Tell me about the other companies. What are you doing outside of automotive?
Sure. So together, Matt Raymond and I launched a company called Bowtie Auto Solutions, and it is a outsourced BDC specifically for service. So we can do overflow calls. We can do full service BDC. We can also run just outbound campaigns for retention, for recalls, for anything. And then we've also opened up certified auto glass. So we provide windshield glass to individuals at their home, or also auto dealerships for service and body shops.
Right. I knew about the BDC. I just wanted to be sure that we had that covered. Outsourced BDC, Kristin Dillard-Sodoma. She's here. Max Zanan, the curmudgeon, the mad Russian, the dental guru. Hi, guy.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Having the best day. What's new in your life?
Listen, I'm doing the same thing that I have been doing, automotive, dental. I also dabble in dealer loans. I did close to $5 million in dealer loans last year. So if you need to expand, this is who you call.
Okay. And let me see this, the Duchess of Productivity. Is that correct?
You did good. You did good.
Horn Automotive Group, the Duchess of Productivity, April Simmons. Hi, kid.
Hey, what a fun topic this is. As a person who's kind of been the project manager through our adding and expanding of dealerships very quickly and rapidly, this will be a fun one. I'm excited for it.
Well, you and Kristin are the experts of with current experience on the broadcast today. We all have seen it. We've all participated in it, but you're doing it.
Oh yeah, and it's got all of its good fun parts. There's huge rewards, but definitely the stressful parts are there too.
Right.
And the Empress of executive management, one of the most brilliant women in the car business, Miss Jennifer Briggs herself. Hi, kid.
Hey, Jim. I know it's been a whole solid 12 months since I've done a buy sell, so I will take a back seat to the lovely ladies going through the processes currently. I think it's a good topic and it's the right time, because whether you're growing through acquisition or just growing in market share, with some of the changes happening right now, it's going to be really interesting to see who the people doing the right things right are going to come out way ahead.
The buy sells are going crazy out there.
Yes, they are.
Oh, I'm looking at Brett Sutherland. I'm looking at Morgan.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Aaron Ziegler. I'm looking at West Her Group. All these private entities are buying all these dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
And
now,
little Kristin, she also she's a mega dealer. Oh my God. Unbelievable. And the Queen of BDC. I'm talking about a woman that is just absolutely brilliant. Maybe the best BDC consultant guru in the universe.
He's going to say she couldn't
Miss
make it.
Bobbie Herron. I did.
I feel like if there's ever been a reason where I should get to wear a crown in public, it's for this show. And I'm seriously considering getting one just for fun because I want to have one, like for real.
Oh, what happened to Kristin? She blanked out on us there.
She
I think
sent a quick
having a little
message.
connection difficulty.
Yeah, she sent a quick message that she said she was having a hard time staying connected. So I'm assuming she's going to probably jump back on. You even
I
froze.
think she will.
There, Jim.
Yeah, Jim, you froze for a second.
Yeah, well, you know,
I think it was something you
I've got
said,
good
Jim.
internet strength here. So.
That's not
Okay.
how that works. We don't have a freeze button.
No. Anyway, April, challenges of rapid growth. Start off the subject.
You know, I think we are starting to really feel some of those unintended consequences of rapid growth, which is not having enough of that, you know, middle management to really be able to get into the store. You know, it's one thing to go in and have the massive project. You know, when you do a buy sale, you're taking a solid like 4 months of just, it is 90% of your day for about 4 months. There's so much that has to get done, and training and moving all the people and all the things that has to happen, all the digital aspects, all the things, right? There's a lot that goes into it. But then after that, when you've grown so much, you now have all of these people that, you know, I used to be in every store every week. Like
Have you done new construction recently?
Oh, we've done new construction. We're remodeling. It's all over the place all the time. And the problem with those projects is that they're time consuming. It's not that there's not great things about them. It's just that it makes it hard to continue having that true one-to-one relationship with the people in your stores as you rapidly grow. And that is a pain point that we are really dealing with and trying to work through right now. And part of that is really starting to lean into technology and finding ways to do our own, you know, training platforms and different things, because I can't physically be in every store every week because we have too many of them now. So it's things like that you don't necessarily think about in the moment of rapid expansion. It's the aftermath, the wake that I call it, you know, what happens in the wake that we've got to be cognizant of.
Well, the very first thing I would do if I bought an existing franchise, that I would not hire the existing people. Everybody has to re-interview.
Which we do that, but we also intend to do our best to keep the staff as much as humanly possible, because acquisition of staff is actually much more difficult than acquiring a dealership. You know,
I was headed there.
But you know, acquiring
Kristin, what's your
staff is
challenge?
much more difficult. But we still do have interviews, and those interviews primarily are to make sure that, you know, the people align with who we are and what our, you know, mission is for as a company and that sort of thing. So the interview process is more to just make sure we get to know them, they get to know us, that sort of thing.
Kristin, what's your biggest challenge?
Construction. I don't like construction.
I'm trying to picture you with a hard hat out there. Just
I look pretty cute with a hard hat. I've got a good picture of me on a caterpillar with a hard hat.
so construction. Now let's dive into that before we get the rest of the panel into it.
Yeah, sure. So
you bought 6 dealerships.
Mm-hmm. So we had a total of 7, and there was this point where we had one dealership that the roof kept collapsing, and so we knew that we had to build a new dealership. We bought the property, we were ready to go, and then around that same time we had another smaller dealership that we wanted to move it to a different location. And once we started really doing the math, we started thinking about, is this the best use of our funds and the best use of the talent that it's going to take to to get these projects completed. And ultimately, we just decided that that wasn't the best use of our time, energy, or efforts. So we sold those 2 stores.
So you bought them and sold them already.
Yes, but you have to understand that during that time, we moved and my house was under construction. We bought an office park and that was under construction where my office was. And then we were talking about 2 more construction projects. And I learned about myself very quickly. I do not like construction.
So you got over ambitious. You reached out. That's exactly what this show is about. You know, you can overreach. Jennifer, comment.
Well, I think that it definitely is easy to overreach. And, you know, I said it's been 12 months for me. But it was a bought the next one too soon situation with the last buy sell going through. And I think that, you know, especially for some folks who may not be as seasoned in the business, right? Kristin grew up in the business. So, you know, she has a better understanding than some dealer principals who may only be, you know, 5-10 years in. So I think understanding how to make sure when you're going to add those on, there's a blend of enveloping the culture and the people of that new store, but also having a plan and structure in place to bring them into the fold. Like April was saying, make sure they're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for them, because overreach is not as taxing if you have a great team. And that is the hardest thing to come by today, especially when we see a lot of people bailing from the industry right now.
Okay, so Max, jump in there.
So I am the beneficiary of the expansion at all times, right? Because I do reinsurance for car dealers. So if, let's say, I do business with a dealer group and they buy another dealership, boom, it's like extra money right away. But I'm the first to tell them not to do it, right? And I'll tell you why. First, you know, COVID had a detrimental effect on the sense of reality for a lot of dealers, right? And they think that they're like God's gift to dealership operations. And they're like, yeah, of course I can buy a dealership in another state or on another planet. And I can run it remotely and everybody's going to pay $10,000 over sticker, right? So it's just bananas, right? So I tell them, guys, unless that dealership is like within a 30-minute drive, I wouldn't do it, right? When you tell me it's 3 hours away, you're never going to go there. And
that's where Kristin has been really, really smart. There's a confined area.
Yeah.
I see dealers buying them from coast to coast. And
Yeah.
if you can't drive there in 30, 40, 50 minutes, I wouldn't do the deal.
See, working in a major metro, I would push an hour and a half because that's kind of normal from the market I grew up in. But I definitely wouldn't go any further than an hour and a half.
Yeah, but even an hour and a half, that means a 3-hour commute a day, and it will devastate you know, any dealer principal, right? Because by the time you get to the dealership, you're already exhausted, and then you can't wait to get out of there to beat the traffic. Right. So that's point number one that I make to all the dealers that I work with that are trying to acquire dealerships. Right. There has to be a geographical limit to their ambitions. You know, and the second point I make to them is that when they do not listen and they buy anyway, right, they're like, well, listen, we're going to keep all the staff. So I think that you have to fire all the staff. I don't agree that you have to interview.
I just said that a minute ago, didn't I?
No. You said you have to make them re-interview for the position.
Yeah, well, that means firing them. Yes.
Right. You have to fire.
Every day's an interview.
Right. You have to fire all of them because if they were any good, that dealership would not be for sale.
No, that wouldn't be my philosophy. No.
Yeah. Because you can have a bad manager and some great talent underneath that's been suppressed, and you could lose some strong talent that way.
No, Jennifer, there's no such thing as a strong talent in the underperforming dealership. People attract. So underperforming people attract underperforming dealers and vice versa.
That's why we call you the
Underperforming
curmudgeon.
salespeople work for underperforming dealers, and underperforming dealers put their dealerships on the market.
Okay, I'm not sure I agree with that, Max.
Yeah, yeah.
In
Listen,
some
I've been
in some cases, Max, you say it like that's 100% of the time, 100%
no.
it is.
I
And
just
that's-
say my stuff with conviction. That's all it is.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounded like you were saying 100% of the time that's how it is, and that's not how it is 100% of the time.
April, I would fire all the vendors.
Typically we will.
Yes.
We
Yes.
almost always fire all the
I agree with that.
all the vendors. You know, that is part of the process, right?
Especially my reinsurance guy.
Yeah. At the point that you're getting close to,
Definitely.
you know, the signing, right? When you start to get in that, what I call, you know, go time, that 90-day window before keys are going to be exchanged, that's when you really get all your team together. You look at their vendors, you have that communication with the seller, and make sure that you are setting up your game plan. You know, my goal is within the first 24 hours of keys being exchanged, we're conducting business. Like, that's my personal goal. I want us to be business as usual within 24 hours, right? Like, no hiccups as much as humanly possible. Well, that means you got to have a lot of preparation.
How do you do that?
It's due diligence.
It's absolute due diligence, but it's also mass communication. Like, it's communication on new levels of scale, right? You have to get your whole team together, decide who's taking care of what, and then you have to constantly, you know, I call myself, and Kristin, you said you hate construction, and I'm like, it's the closest thing to construction sometimes, these buy sales, right?
Yeah.
You have to have a project manager, right? That customer, the communication liaison, whose job is literally to take the 9,000 things that you have to do and be like, okay, you said you were going to do this. What's the status? Where are we at? How are we doing? Making sure that that stuff is happening and coming together. So, you know, that has to happen, you know, about 90 days out, because, and then you got to push the vendors that you have good relationships with to do you solids, right? Like, I want website built and I don't have a dealer code yet, right?
Yep.
Like, I don't have those things. So whatever I got to do to get you to do what I need to be done, regardless of not being the normal way we do it,
Mhm.
those are the things it takes to be able to walk into a store and within 24 hours say, hey, everything works, right? Like, ROs are printing, everything's processing, everything's doing what it should be doing in that short window of time. So
Kristin,
that comes from trial and error, my friends. Trial and error.
Kristin, what has been your biggest crash? I hate to say failure, but what didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted it to?
We really like to keep the full team when we go into stores. To us, that's really important, and it speaks to our culture. And we purchased a store in a smaller town, and you know, we went in like, yeah, we're gonna rock this. It's gonna be amazing. And everybody on the sales floor was like 80 years old plus, and they were showing up like 2 or 3 days a week whenever they wanted to. And so that wasn't quite the best culture fit or the best.
And when you fire him, you're the villain in this small town.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But I mean, all we said was, hey guys, we need you to at least work 40 hours a week. And that evidently was a conflict. That was a hard lesson learned, because, you know, it's kind of like a know your audience thing. And evidently 40 hours is a tough ask for some groups.
That's
Jennifer?
overtime.
Yeah.
I think that is really, really a challenge, especially if you're considering going into towns that are different than your base. I think for me, probably the biggest failure and success was from a few years ago when we bought a store that didn't even have a CRM. And so, oh my gosh, a General Motors store. And so, of course, during the due diligence phase, the other executives on the team were consulting with the existing ownership in order to get some things in line so we were ready to go once everything closed. And I shamefully, as someone who grew up in General Motors dealerships, had never actually been in SCI. And so that was quite interesting for those of you on the show who maybe not. That's GM's actual, it's like a little CRM that you just get, and all of your information goes in there. But I remember we did in the first week during our consultation phase prior to closing, we deployed an email campaign out of SCI. And the two brothers that we had purchased the store from were amazed at how many sales we had just based off of that. So I felt like I wasn't prepared as that expert going in to help facilitate that transition, because I pride myself on knowing every CRM.
So the due diligence was faulty.
Well, I feel like, no, our due diligence was this was during due diligence. So I was ashamed of my failure of not knowing a CRM. I should have known, even though nobody uses it because they don't pay for it.
That's
right?
what I'm sort of implying here. Yes.
Yeah. And so we still succeeded. We figured it out, but it did create some of a struggle. And man, it did make us seem like superstars once we actually got onto a real CRM and not just that back end SCI software.
Well, every day on LinkedIn and Facebook and even on TikTok, what I'm seeing today is all these dealers that are into rapid expansion are begging for employees. Every week, Chris Baker, Benton Baker's got an employment ad. Brett Sutherland's got an employment ad. Morgan's got an employment ad. All these rapidly expanding, soon-to-be mega dealers, Matt Bowers in Louisiana, all these rapidly expanding private dealers are hurting for people. Now, I got to turn to Kristin Dillard-Sodoma and say, has that been part of your challenges?
It has, and that was a big push that we tried to get across the finish line. Q3, Q4 of last year was developing a full-blown talent acquisition department that we have in-house. And that's been really helpful for us for trying to find the right staff and trying to find the right leaders, really.
Trying to find, not just people, but people that are better than you had, people that, we're not going to keep all the staff. I halfway agree with Max that I wouldn't keep all the staff.
So when Jim says he half agrees with me, he really means he agrees with me.
But I feel like it's kind of important too. Like the people that I buy stores from are typically older. They have no succession plan, and so the team that they have in the stores, it's their family. And right. If you develop a relationship or a reputation where you're not taking in their team, like that they're not going to want to sell to you.
Well, so exactly.
It's really important that you have a strong reputation of keeping the team and developing the team and helping them grow to their full potential. That's family.
Yeah. I think it's important to be able to go in and identify the signs, right? It's like looking for red flags for people who maybe not a fit. But I agree with Kristin that you've got to try your best to put that foot forward with the community, and it will certainly impact your opportunities to purchase if you're staying inside that radius, Max, like you recommend, and you get a reputation for being a hatchet person. And I mean, I was the hatchet woman at my first dealer group, so I know what that reputation.
I can see that.
Hey, somebody's gotta do the hard stuff, but I always give someone the benefit of the doubt. And I learned early on in my 5-minute manager training, if you have an issue, it's they don't know or they don't care. And I think when you get these communities where it is like a family in these stores, they care. The issue is they don't know. And it's really easy to tell the difference if you're doing your job as the new owner or the new leadership team of who doesn't care. Then drop that hammer and make a change. But until then, give everyone the benefit of the doubt, at least for the first 2 weeks, right? Feel it out and see what's going on. If they're resistant to change and they're not going to get on board, then you've done what you need to do and it makes it a lot easier to make that decision.
April?
The words right out of my mouth, Jennifer Briggs. Same thing I say, you don't know, you don't care. It's our job to make sure you know. And so we really try to keep all the staff, and, getting staff is hard, whether you're expanding or not, because we've got a lot of people leaving the business, right? They're jumping ship. So regardless of whether you're in mass expansion or you're just trying to hold your own line, getting humans is really, really tough. So, I'm trying to really work with the team and say, hey, work with what you got, hire to upgrade, don't hire to replace. We should only be looking to hire somebody if I have somebody that would be an upgrade from what I currently have. Because if not, replacing somebody with somebody who's going to do the same job of the person that you just let go doesn't even make any sense. Why would you start over with somebody who ultimately is not going to perform better than the person you just fired for the same reason? So I think that it's really important that, you've got to have people, and dealers have a bad reputation as a whole of hiring anyone that can fog a mirror. So before you say, hey, let's fire everyone and then go try to replace them, what are you going to hire? You're going to hire somebody that was better than the person you fired? Probably not.
No, April. The reason I say you got to fire everybody, especially if it's a small community and the dealership has been there for 30, 40 years, because you cannot teach an old dog a new trick.
Sure.
Right?
I take offense to that.
No offense, Jim. No offense, Jim. Okay, you're like a 1%er.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. That's absolute nonsense. I will tell you that's absolute nonsense. There are some people that refuse to learn, and it's a hard lesson that they learn when they are replaced, right? And they are upgraded. But you have to give, just like both the girls said, we've got to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, you don't know that to be fact. I got a lot of new people who come in here who are not old dogs, who honestly refuse to want to even learn or assimilate. So we shouldn't judge. No. Some people will learn. Proof of that.
That's a tiny minority.
I put a CRM into a teeny tiny store 2 years ago now. And I thought they'll never do it. They'll never do it because they're my old dogs. And you know what? Even they're starting to assimilate. So do not ever say, Max, I usually agree with you, and I am just telling you, and you are wrong.
I mean,
Max, you're so wrong. See, I had a caveat. I would interview everybody for their jobs. See, the legality of firing everybody is that you haven't discriminated against anybody because you didn't buy the corporation.
That's right.
You didn't buy the corporation, So you're starting out with a new entity. Everybody has to interview for their job back. That way I have no discrimination, not age discrimination, not racial discrimination, not performance discrimination, sex discrimination. I've given, it becomes a new company.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I meant by firing everybody. I would hire most of them back. But you see what I'm saying? So, Kristin, do you agree or disagree with me or Max, or both of us are full of, what do you think?
I just feel like when you come in and with a buy sell, like everybody is on edge. And if you start saying, okay, now you have to interview to keep your job, I think it puts them more on edge. And quite frankly, I think it makes them go look for jobs. And that might be somebody that you want to keep. So we just say, you're in your role, you stay in your role. And then we'll figure it out later. We do.
You sneak around and fire them.
No, some of them have even gotten promotions. But we try to keep their pay plans pretty similar to start out, and then we'll eventually get them over to our pay plans. But we really do try to make it as least hectic as it can be for the employee on their way in, because their whole world just got changed. And usually we come in and change all their technology. So at that point, they don't even know how to do their job anymore because the technology changed. So we try to keep it. It is stressful, but we just try to keep it as least stressful as it can. We do try to sit with every one of the managers or second, third, fourth level people and just really get an understanding of like who they are and what they do and how they contribute to the team. But it's never really a job interview.
Because you are a culture-oriented team culture. I mean, you are steeped in that philosophy. And how many people won't adapt to your philosophy?
We've had a few, and we have a good conversation about it, and then there's some decisions to make on if they want to play on our team or they want to go work for somebody else.
Jennifer, jump back in.
I think that making it their decision is important. And like I had said a minute ago, giving every benefit. Now, there are sometimes, even if you do, like most recently, and again, it's been 12 months, guys. I know that in buy-sell land, that's really not that long, but it has been 12 months. But I think it was a buying too many too fast. And the first one, the dust hadn't even settled. And already the dealer had gone through 3 GSMs in 12 months. And then adding another location on top of that before the first house, the first new acquisition had even been settled in. So I think that it is important to make sure that those key members of your team are there. But if you don't know as the dealer what that culture is and what your mission and your value statement as an organization is, it's going to make it really hard to evaluate whether those leaders are a good fit for your team. So I've always been a fan of, and now in a buy sell, you don't necessarily always have that time, but you need to take a long time to hire the right people if you are making a change, but be quick to fire if you put somebody in and they're not, because we know we're in an industry of salespeople. So you may be in a position where someone sells you on being a good fit for your culture at your new store, and I'm going to help you grow and I'm going to help you do these things, but they could actually be very toxic. The technology that Kristin mentioned is huge. I have run into situations where, the new team put into place immediately wanted to change technology. No, we have this technology in place as a group. We are centralized on our software systems. And so they were feeling like a fish out of water. And rather than actually taking time to learn the new team's software and culture, they immediately wanted to, oh no, this is terrible. This is that. And in the end of the day, that's just going to cost the dealer money. And so those are things you have to think about if you do make a decision to make a change in one of those leadership seats. Really take your time and ask those questions, because if they're not on the bus, they are going to be pulling that handbrake and trying to slow you down. And in a buy, sell, and a new acquisition, you don't have time for that.
What's always interesting to me when it comes to a buy sell is after years with Garber and then years of working with Eric Gale, I've done a lot of buy and sells over the years, and every day is an interview. That's not any different than every day that you come to work in the job that you currently work in.
Because Eric Gale was buying a lot of stores, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, like Eric Gale has bought a lot of stores and taught me a lot of things. And one of them is that every day is an interview. I still say that often because it's the truth. But the fact of the matter is that nobody really wants to go into a store, buy it, and get rid of everyone. Nobody wants that turnover in employment. Nobody wants to try to do all that rehiring. The truth is, everybody wants to interview you to see if you fit in the culture, in the process, and what's going to happen if you're willing to adapt and you're willing to be ambitious and you're willing to be a part of it. And oftentimes really high performance KPI leaders who are burnt out, and I'm not saying that every store that's sold is because it's a failure, but oftentimes people who are the best leaders, they get real quiet when they're done. And the truth is, people work different for different leaders. I know great people who did not strive to what their performance levels were under certain people, but did under others, even in other departments. So every day is an interview, but going through a buy sell, if you're an employee at one, is nothing to be afraid of. It's show up. You just got a chance at a brand new job. And all you have to do is show that you actually want it and that you're willing to be a part of it. And that's very often what an owner is looking for. I work direct with owners on this all the time for leadership and hiring. And genuinely, that's the case. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Kristin and April, you're doing this all the time from a different level, but we've all worked together. We've been friends for years. This is what I experience with people all the time. It's not any different than every other day that you're at work, except that you have an opportunity to do something exciting and new with a brand new set of people that might just change your life.
I'll tell you, honest to goodness, I've been in a lot of dealerships that were in the process of buy sells. Now, Kristin, I'm going to direct this question to you. I would imagine we're talking about buying existing dealerships. Have you done any new construction of a new point?
I've never done that. No.
Okay, so you've always bought existing franchises.
Yes.
She's just building other businesses from the ground up, hiring the best in the industry and deciding to just do it herself.
Okay, I'm trying to unravel Dave Parrish's statement on the screen.
I think it's just a compliment, not a question.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We agree, Dave. We agree. She's awesome.
I worked with the Ford and General Motors minority programs years ago, and it was mostly creating new points. And I was wondering, April, how many new points have you created, or you bought existing franchises?
They've all been existing. However, some of them have been moved at the point, right? So like here's this store down the street. We are buying that. That is going completely away and is now just real estate. And we're putting a new point in somewhere else. So that we've done a couple of those, mostly remodels though. Some have been like basic ground up remodels. Others have not. One of our most recent ones, we, basically bought 3 stores that became 2 stores because we just closed immediately. One closed one of them. We've kind of gone through and had a little bit of everything, some big metro stuff, some teeny tiny outlier rural stuff, and everything in between. But we've gone so far as caring about the humans that are in the store that we've actually assimilated to them out of the gate and said, hey, we will slow roll some of these things, up to including, one of our buy sales that was not down the street, to Max's point, right? It was a little bit of a drive. So it's not like I can just be there every day and pop in and see how things are going. We kept their DMS and CRM out of the gate. Like I learned their CRM to make the burden of that transition easier. And then about 8 months in, then we moved over the CRM to what I have with everybody else, so that those employees were not going to get rattled so hard right out of the gate. So I think, sometimes that's something to consider when you're going in, is like, hey, I want to be going forward and I want to be profitable day one. And in order to do that, sometimes we got to be the ones that take a little bit of that burden on us.
Let me make a statement. I have a reputation for growing dealerships to the big numbers. I did it last, couple years ago. I've done it 30 years ago. Every dealership that is being sold is being sold for several reasons. It's underperforming. The dealer wasn't fortunate like Tom Dillard to have a Kristin in the wings. Everybody didn't have, second generation, third generation ready to take the reins. Okay, but they're underperforming for whatever reason. The number one reason that I was able to grow dealerships to the big numbers is because most underperforming dealerships are understaffed. They don't have enough people to sell the amount of cars they need to sell or to service the amount of cars they need to service. They don't have enough staff. Every time, number of things I did to grow the dealerships, but increasing staff was always a priority to get to the right number. And I mean, they're fighting you tooth and nail. You're flooding the floor. Shit, what tipped you off? Was it all the kids in the training class? What? What was your first clue? But yeah, so I see all these dealers that are expanding rapidly, advertising for additional managers, additional sales professionals, additional techs. Kristin, was that your problem?
Yeah, we could always use some more people. Definitely, for sure.
Hiring right now?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so in beautiful North Carolina, if you got a great performing manager out there that that wants to go with a quality organization, quality pay plan, quality technology, forward thinking, good dealership culture. Everybody's happy. Kristin Dillard-Sodoma.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I need one superstar GM and a sales manager right now.
You need what?
A superstar GM and a sales manager right now. Those are my two that I'm looking for.
Good problem to have.
Yeah.
How much does it pay? Debbie's let me travel again.
It's good. It's good. You should come. You should come.
No.
I mean, North Carolina is super close to Georgia. Come on.
And we have 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Well, you have 4 seasons too, Jim. But
Fantastic.
I will tell you though that I promised I moved somebody here
anybody who
from.
wants to work for Kristin. She's amazing. She's a good leader. She runs a good company, and she hires smart people and gets out of their way. And that's, I think, one of the real big keys to being a good leader.
Thank you.
Now, Kristin, were you saying you moved someone in?
I did. I moved 2 people in, one from Pennsylvania and one from Indiana, and I promised them both really, really great weather. And that same year that I moved them here, a hurricane knocked down one of their houses, and the other one, like, it snowed.
Wait, say it again.
So they're like,
He posted that right as you said it, so they might stick alike.
they wanted to renegotiate the terms with the weather.
Oh my gosh.
You relocated somebody with a promise of good weather, and a hurricane knocked over their house.
And he'd only been in it for like a month. It was so sad.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's terrible.
I love Matt's comment. For those of you who don't know, Matt and Kristin work together on the team, and I have the utmost respect for Matt Raymond. He's a great friend and an incredibly intelligent man who does an incredible job. So much respect for him. I'm so glad. I was so excited
cool
when you hired him.
Yeah, that was magical
it was so
when we
cool
got
where
together.
he came from,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But the Tom Wood group used that
We
line
love it.
with me. They're like, Jennifer, it's warmer in Indiana than it is in Michigan. And I
I told her that was not true.
Somebody said something earlier that cash is king. Now I'm gonna go back to Kristin on this one first, and then I'm going to back.
That was Shorkey that said that.
I'm looking at. I'll use Brett Morgan as an example, or Matt Bauer. I've seen these Taj Mahal dealerships. My God, the money they're sinking into these new points. Brett Sutherland building new construction. What about your cash flow, Kristin? What do you?
So my name and their names don't belong in the same sentence. Like they're
What's that?
they're a lot further down the road than we are, as far as being able to buy these really big stores. But for us, it's all about having the right partnerships. So we have great strategic relationships with our lenders, also with our reinsurance companies. But we know,
we're still talking millions, aren't we?
It's still a lot of money. I don't know if it's Brett Morgan money, but it's it's still a lot.
Hey, look, I was in your dealership 35 years ago. Remember? I remember the little dealership in Salisbury, North Carolina, when your dad was running the show, and he hired me, and I'm going now. We got 6 or 7 locations. I'm thinking, you didn't come out of Metro Charlotte. You came out
we didn't.
Salisbury.
Having the right relationships and knowing how to leverage, what you've got so that you can go build is, a big piece for us. And then of course, managing daily operations to keep the cash flow turning within the stores.
Yeah. That would be my number one struggle with April, how you were saying you guys kept the existing DMS and CRM in place, just managing the cash flows there. You got to remember, I started in the business in the accounting office, and my first buy sells happened. Actually, my first 4 buy sells happened while I was in the accounting seat. And so, making sure not just that you have the great relationships at the top level, to make sure that you've got the right lenders in place, and you've got to have the right controller in place, whether it's at the corporate level or that location and the existing locations. Because a lot of times, especially if you're a smaller dealer buying another smaller dealer, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul sometimes on those things, and making sure that the books are in order and that CIT is on point. And that's the only thing that scares me about this scenario. CRM, I'm with you. I could make a compromise there, but the accounting system being different gave me heart palpitations.
Well, and honestly, they're all the number one reason we did it, because the accounting office is the first one to jump ship when you try to change anything. They are the
Oh,
first ones.
We are known to be stubborn.
I'm out. So
did you lose any of those people, Kristin?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Did you lose the accounting office in any of these?
No, we've been pretty good with keeping the accounting teams for sure.
That's awesome. 'Cause that's a big deal.
April, expand on that statement.
well, because they tend to, they understand the things they understand, and they are, for lack of a better way, sometimes stubborn, right? And so you have to slowly move them to doing things your way by almost running parallel, right?
Make them learn new technology.
Yeah, it's there. That's, you want to talk about the old car dogs. They are my most old car dogs is actually in my office, and getting them to want to do anything different. And quite frankly, it's harder to not blame them, right? Because, in sales, I have a carrot for you to learn something new, right? Like here's, to simulate the old dark chick, right? Like I've got treats in the form of money that I can put out in front of them to get them to want to do and learn new things. For the office, what is their treat, right? So we have to remember that with these people who really control a lot. The office doesn't get enough credit for what they do, and especially in these buy sales and how smooth or unsmooth they can go. That should be your first best friend.
Yeah.
It's the first person I go to say, here's who I am, here's my cell phone number. Like, that's the first person I want to be BFFs with, is the controller, because they are the ones that will really help you. Plus, they're the ones that know everything about the dealership. I'd
rather replace a GM than a controller any day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like if you really want to get pulse and get your business moving in the right direction, that's the first person to talk to. Like, go to the office first. They know everything about everybody in every situation. And then you can start to work with them to assimilate to your accounting style. We had one store, and you want to talk about a pain in the butt. They weren't using the OEM chart of accounts. They were utilizing a different chart of accounts. So when you start to look at trying to get your financial to work, like, that was a nightmare, right? So there are things that just,
wait a minute, April, were those things anticipated, or was this a big surprise?
So remember I said trial and error? There's a list of lessons learned that get added to my list of questions that we started about the 90-day pre-key change. That I did, you didn't know the first time, and then this happens, and you go, okay, so now before we just switch over, what chart of accounts are you using, right? Like you go to these other levels of asking these questions, but you learn via trial and error. You learn by that kind of stuff. But with the, to answer the cash question, I don't really personally get too overly involved in it, but I will share one thing that my boss brought to me, probably 6 months ago. And it is now my favorite saying of all. In the car business, so many times we talk about the ROI, and everybody knows what that is. And the ROI is so important. He came to us now with, as we've been aggressively expanding on ROE. We don't care about the ROI until we know that the ROE will make sense. And the ROE is return on effort. If I've got to because the manpower that it takes to do some of these things, to Kristin, your point, like stopping those two, right? Saying, hey, we're not going to proceed forward because the ROE wasn't there. The ROI might have made sense on paper, but the resources it takes to go over here and do this project took away from the resources now for me to put my time and energy into what we have. And if that goes backwards, was this venture really worth it? And we've got to look at those two things, and they both have to matter and kind of balance themselves out.
Kristin, are you still buying more dealerships? Are you thinking about bigger?
Yep.
Are you really?
Yep. We're like, our 10-year plan is 10 stores in 10 years. So we've got a little work.
Excited for you.
10 stores in 10 years.
Yep. I think we'll have more by the 10-year mark, but want to get that one first. So
I love that.
Max, sprinkle a little rain on this sunshine.
Right. Say that,
Max is on his best behavior today. Jim, it took me a long time to get him to do that. Thank you.
So, I mean, I love this show because sometimes I think either I'm out of touch with reality, or most people are out of touch with reality. Because what I learned is that if a dealer acquires another dealership and you go to that dealership on day one, and then you come back in a year, I promise you, it is 99% replaced. Every single person in every single department.
Every day's an interview.
Right. Because again, guys, the point that I'm trying to make is that successful dealerships rarely are for sale. Usually it's the miserable failures that are for sale. And miserable failures employ miserable failures. And if you want to go in and make a difference, you have to start the launch sequence, right? But if you're looking to grow, right, you have to understand that not only that you have to replace these people, you have to have people to replace them with, right? So if you don't have the staff to replace the existing useless crew, you are bound to fail. I promise you that.
Oh, you're killing me.
And another point is that if you think that you're going to replace the existing people with Gen Z people, you are definitely going to fail. Right? So understand this.
I just have to interrupt because I can't even handle it anymore.
You need millennials. I take this back. You don't need millennials.
No.
You need
Gen
X.
You are such a
save the day.
No. I said like three things the whole show because we crashed.
Max is a breath of fresh air.
That had to exit. So I have to say this. I worked for Sonic Automotive for years as a regional. I worked for Garber Automotive as a corporate director across the country before working for Cardinelli and a multitude of people that nobody knows about because I don't name my clients, handling buy sells, handling operations. And I promise you, I will tell you that more of the time the landscape changes because people are scared when a buy sell goes through. And they're afraid they're going to get fired and they start looking for a new job. And so many owners walk in on the day that it's done and freak them out and it goes tangent. The majority of the time that does occur. I'm not saying that there's not like bad people employing bad people, but I will say that how is it possible that you can go in and buy a dealership in the same location with the same inventory, with the same money and same opportunity relatively, and a lot of times the same people and be successful? The difference is in the leadership. And most of the time top leaders aren't being listened to. I watch it all the time. I fix dealerships every single day. Yes, I do BDC. Yes, I do marketing. I'm not saying this to be a narcissist or be like, oh, toot my horn. Actually, for a living, every day, what I do behind the scenes is go in and work with leaders who are already winning and help them or who are buying a store. That's the rule. And it happens all the time. I'm in the middle of 2 buy sells right now. And we're going to go in next week and we're going to tell a store because it's in the contract that they just got bought out. They're going to find out from the owner that day and the new team is going to walk in. That is not the ideal way to do it. And that's the way the owner is having it done. And we will lose people because of it, because they didn't apply to work for these people. They don't know what the best
way to do it. It's not the ideal way. It's the best way to do it.
The most expensive thing in a dealership is turnover.
Right.
Max, thank you. I get accused of being socially unacceptable, but you.
And I gotta say, I think Max is brilliant, but I disagree with him on this. And I gotta say, I was laughing when April was talking about the controller. That's not why it was Jennifer's face, because we just had to do this with the controller a couple months ago on a project we worked on. So I was laughing at her face as she was trying not to say anything, but that's not the case. And yes, I don't know what the number is. I don't know what the real percentages of it. I'm sure we could look up an NADA stat or a work pool, but I know from the people that I work with and the stores that I walk into that we've saved a lot of really good people to come work for people. When you're going into a store and you've bought it, the smartest thing you can do is let them interview you just like you want to interview them. They don't have to work for you, and you might actually want them there. They've likely gotten silent because they're at the end of their rope. And when really good employees get silent, they're done.
So soft, right, Jennifer? So soft.
I am not feeling by yourself today.
I love how you think I'm so soft today. I believe in people, and I try to be a good leader. But I'll tell you what, you could take a poll of the people who have ever worked with me. I am not soft.
And I'm sitting here laughing as
No,
the one
no,
with
no.
the reputation being the hatchet woman.
Hmm.
I strongly disagree with Max. Like I said earlier, I would not even make a decision to let someone go. Now they can choose to let themselves go prior to the 2-week mark, but I need to have that time with them to know who they are and what is their story and how
Oh yeah, Jen, I agree with
in.
you. 2 weeks, no problem.
You
Anything
haven't researched
beyond
the
2
people before.
weeks,
That's crazy. I'll
yeah.
tell you what, Dick Garber is one of the most brilliant people I've ever known and the absolute hands down best leader I've ever worked for in my life. He owns stores across this entire country, and his number one rule after years and years and years of doing this, all of his GMs are managing partners. And before he buys a store, he will not buy a store. It doesn't matter how good it is or what's happening until he has that managing partner in place. That doesn't mean there's not another quote unquote GM in the store or senior leadership, but he puts in place the very first leader before he purchases it. And he's always 2 or 3 stores ahead. It's brilliant and it works every time.
Yeah,
and it's how I learned to
a lot of dealers do that.
Mhm.
Terry Taylor has a working partner in every one
Yeah.
of his 120 dealerships. But
Mhm.
Tamkins have a working partner in every one of their Planet Automotive dealerships. I agree with you. That's a really smart strategy because that GM, a working partner, has skin in the game.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And you can't walk into a store and shake everything up. Like April said with the DMS and the CRM, look, controllers, hard to hire, hard to find. Most of the time following whatever was the strategy that was there before. And yes, it can be a difficult change. But if you want to shake up a team to get them all to quit, come in, buy their store and take out all their technology. Do you know how hard a CRM is to run? Instead, you can call me and I'll refresh that CRM and help you out so they don't quit. Or don't and do it yourself and call your performance manager and get on your damn calls every week and fix it. But don't start with that, even if it's low blow and even if it's low hanging.
All right, Tony Robbins. Okay, we
Why
got it.
is it so worked up
Tony
about that?
Robbins.
Like,
Okay,
you're
April
the
Simmons.
most important
April Simmons. April
Last
Simmons,
word.
you're dying to talk over there.
No. Last words. Max, I want to apologize for leaving you on an island by yourself today. First and foremost, because I usually have your back, and
I
I
know
just
you do. What's going on
But,
here? Are you guys right?
But at the end of the day, one of the key things you keep saying that it's underperforming dealership. It has to do with the people. No, underperformance always has and always will be from the top. And if that top did not have the math, the process, the training, and the accountability, because that's all the ingredients of a successful dealership and all that is actually needed. The math to know how many humans I need to sell the cars and service the cars that I need. The process that is tried and true, just like any other franchise in existence. Take McDonald's as a great example, right? We have a process and we follow it. We train on that process every single day, and then we hold accountability to that process. That's what creates successful dealerships, not potentially the people who never had a process, never had accountability, or any of those ingredients in their day. Okay, I'm done.
Max
Okay, down to the last 2
He
minutes.
doesn't have to be nice to everybody.
Bobby, don't even start talking now. We only got 2 minutes.
I know. Look, I'm leaving you with something. I was quiet half the show. You guys broke the internet. We had so many people trying to
Bobby,
join
you
the
were
live
over
stream.
the air. Have the show.
Kristin,
The whole thing.
what else have we not talked about that you feel is a good message for people in the buy-sell world today?
Well, I think April touched on it earlier with making sure that there's like a plan, like a launch team. So we have, we have a group that meets, every week, sometimes twice a week. We use a software called Monday.com as a process manager to make sure that everything stays on track and deadlines and who's responsible for it. But going in prepared, but then for the team's benefit on the incoming side, we assign launch teams, and all of our employees from all the dealerships can volunteer to be on it. It can be technicians, parts counter people, accounting people, and we'll bring in a whole team and we'll sit next to each person for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it takes to learn the position, learn.
Restaurants do that.
Yeah. But we've done that for a long time, and people that were part of buy sells as the seller have come onto our launch teams for when we go by other stores, and for them to be able to say, hey, I just went through this a year ago. I get it, but let me show you how to do it this way. It seems to be key.
That's huge.
Fantastic. Jennifer, last words. We got a minute.
Take your time in due diligence. Do not feel rushed, because if you take shortcuts during that time frame, it is going to cost you so much money in that first year. And like April was saying, you need to be set and ready to be making money on day one. And if you cut corners during due diligence, that is not possible.
Okay, and you notice I put Bobbie Herron and Max Zen right next to each other.
We love each other. We love each other. It's a whole thing.
Everybody wave goodbye to the audience.